Lama dangon boje tsunjan peya na cha tse lu gangi lu du dimni dinta ni tar nam da rab sa di nye dungu ni shin si ji ni pi tu ka le bam ding gang da zi pe tsun zher ma ri mun tom du nga ni si wei ro zo kun la bu chi ta ze yen lang du ju dan den zu du ta re che re do nyen mo ni lo le ki cha do do ze jing ma ri mun se du nga nyu ku ji nye ju ze ra di nam ne dao jin sa chu tar sun yun de lu zo ya ze tu e ku chu da chu dan ju ni yen de da lu mun ze jang pe yam la du o ma ra pa za na di 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 o ma ra pa za na di 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 o ma ra pa za na di 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 Omara Patsana di Tseden Jeki Tienrab Userki Dalu Timu Mun Parab Salne Kadan Tenchu Yulu Topaji Lodu Pope Nangwa Tsadu So Ganze Tawar de Pam Chunze Diwar de Nayang Munpo Jamyan Jenini Degme parayang tongwa shu. Welcome to our class. So if my internet is slow, please let me know because I'm currently at a hotel where I am using their Wi-Fi, but it seems to be good and then not so good sometimes. So I can turn on my data, but I think it's fine, right?
Perfect.
Can you hear me okay?
It's great.
Yeah, just keep me posted. So I am in Bhutan right now, and I've been visiting, Bumtang particularly, which is as I understand now, based on what the history I've learned, is the heart of Bhutan, actually. This is where one of the first temples by King Sonsen Gampo was established. King Sonsen Gampo built 108 temples to establish Buddhism in the Himalayan regions. So two of them are here, and we're talking about 6th century, I believe. And then Guru Rinpoche also came here before going to Tibet to teach the Dharma. I visited the cave where uh, there's a body imprint of his where he first turned the wheel of Dharma to one exiled Indian king who was hiding here, who lost a battle, and then converted him to Buddhism. Then visiting on this Terton Pema Lingpa is here. He was from here, and we visited many of his sites, and also Longchenpa. Actually, it's amazing. It's really, really amazing to be here. So if you guys can never visit, I highly recommend it. Okay, so that was my advertisement for to
Sorry,
come to Bhutan.
Konchak, you
Yes,
recommended something. So I didn't hear it. Could you please say it again? What do you
sure.
recommend?
To
Coming
visit
to
Bhutan.
Bhutan? All
Yeah,
right, cool.
yeah, that's my recommendation. Then also knowing a little bit of Tibetan is really helpful here. If you come, you can read the street signs now because now you can read the script. So you can read the street signs, you can read the toilet signs outside and these kind of things. So your Tibetan class will also come handy here. You're reading your Tibetan letters. Okay, so now I'm gonna share our text. See if I can find it. 1 second.
I just want to note for the record that you haven't taught us
Mhm.
how to say where is the nearest Starbucks in Tibetan. And so
In Tibetan.
could be, you know,
You can
It
say.
might be even more useful to say, give me $5 or something.
Starbucks. There might be. Actually, I don't know. There might not be. And
we not.
here in Bhutan, even the hospital looks like a monastery. Actually, everything. Maybe you guys can see my room even looks a little bit like a monastery there.
That's true.
Um. Okay. So let me share this file. We are talking about ladon particle. So ladon is a little bit uh, is the most complex particle, I would say, in Tibetan because it has too many functions, you know. Actually, that's why it's difficult. Not because it's actually difficult. It's difficult because it can do too many things. So our job is to figure out what is the most likely usage it has in a particular context. So I think we covered the Sanskrit usages, I believe, right? I think Federico was happy about those. Then this is good to keep in mind, especially when working with text. If you guys ever translate, also, this is very useful. And it's up to the translator whether you want to keep the Sanskrit or you can make up your own English word. Or you can, some people even just keep the Tibetan. Some of these terms I personally feel like are better left untranslated because they um, we have to create a new namtok, you know, we have to create a new concept about these terms. There's already concepts built with um, there's already concepts built with the English words. For example, the usual example is compassion, which if we say compassion in the we cannot help it but to be influenced by Christianity. The English language, as well as I guess most European languages, were developed within the context of a Christian culture. So maybe sometimes we don't even realize it, but the words we use are based on Christian ideas. And then we have these Christian words which we're using to translate Dharma, which is a completely different worldview. And then, yeah, we can translate and write a book about some Dharma thing, but the reader, being a native speaker of that, say, let's say English, will not be able to actually, the reader is going to project their own understanding, their own more than likely subtle Christian undertone of the word onto the word that we're trying to translate when trying to convey a Buddhist message. So that's why I advocate for keeping it in Sanskrit or the Tibetan, because Sanskrit and Tibetan actually have, I'm sorry, Sanskrit and English do have a common ancestor. So it is believed that there was this language, it's called what is it called? There is no word because nobody knows actually if it existed. They call it the Indo-European language.
Yeah.
So we can see it, especially I have heard that some Eastern European languages like Lithuanian are really close to Sanskrit. Some of the words are really close. And I can see it, I mean, even in English, for example, uh, hand is hasta in Sanskrit. In Nepali is at. It's a very close hand at. Um, uh, I cannot think of another one right now, but there's many words that are very, very. We can see 100% that there was at some point in time a mother language. So we can say that I mean, a very long time ago, they branched out from the same source. However, in Tibetan, there's just no etymological relationship between Tibetan and English. people say Tibetan is based in Sanskrit, but when they say that, what they mean is that the script, the Tibetan script, was based on the Sanskrit script, on many Sanskrit scripts. When King Sonsen Gampo, speaking of King Sonsen Gampo, he's the first Dharma king of Tibet. And I mentioned him just now because I visited one of the temples that he built to subdue a demoness. Uh, so the geomancy of the country, there was believed to be a demoness, and so he had to build all these temples to subdue her in order to bring Buddhism. So, anyways, King Sun Gampo is also known for sending this really smart guy called Tenmi Sambota. So he went to India. He was sent to India. I think a few people went, but he's the only one that survived. And then he learned all these Indian scripts, and then he combined them and developed the Tibetan alphabet. And he developed Tibetan grammar. And Tibetan grammar was developed trying to, as we already know, trying to copy Sanskrit grammar. So basically, what Tenmi Sambota did is he tried to superimpose this Sanskrit grammar onto an already existing Tibetan language. But in terms of the etymology, in terms of the way the words are sound and the way we make the sounds, actually, there's no relationship. That's why for us it's difficult, or maybe for us, except for Zan, perhaps, because sometimes they say the Sino-Burma Tibetan language family. So I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know Chinese, but maybe there's a little bit. I imagine there must be a little bit of a closer relationship, but um, otherwise, anyhow, sorry, I think I'm going off. But what I'm trying to say is, um, because of the relationship between Sanskrit and English, I would prefer to use the Sanskrit. However, Sanskrit is dead basically. Nobody speaks Sanskrit. Only a bunch of nerdy scholars in a library in a university, perhaps. But you cannot go and speak Sanskrit with someone, unless you want to show off and speak with your Sanskrit professor or something like that. A few students at RYI speak in Sanskrit. They 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 show off a little bit their Sanskrit and they speak in Sanskrit. It sounds interesting. But whereas on the other hand, Tibetan is alive. Tibetan actually, we can get the Mengak, we can get the Upadesh, we can get the peace instruction from the Guru by means of Tibetan.
Chuck,
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting you.
Oh, please go
You are
ahead.
99% correct.
Mhm,
But there are small communities in India that try to revive the Sanskrit language
mhm.
almost in the same way as in Israel. It was
With Hebrew, right?
Hebrew was revived, and there's a news channel
Mhm.
in Sanskrit, which is very cool. You could hear the latest news about Trump and
Wow.
all sorts of things in Sanskrit.
Wow, I had no idea actually.
Yeah, I will send it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, please share it actually. Then there is Sanskrit is being revived, I guess then. So that's good. Maybe later we can watch the Sanskrit news. But anyways, I'm sorry I'm going off topic, but I think we should this is I'm saying this, my intention is for you guys, because if in the future, if you translate, you have to make a decision on how you will translate these terms. That's the whole point of this um my talk right now. So you can choose to keep the Tibetan, you can choose to use the Sanskrit, or you can choose to translate it into English. And then, for example, I was using the example of the word compassion, which in Christianity it means to suffer together. I think passion has this connotation of suffering, as I understand. Compassion is, I don't know the etymology exactly, but it's something like together suffer, compassion. Whereas in Buddhism, the definition of compassion, as we heard when we were talking about the foreign vegetables, is the wish for others to be free of suffering and knowing that we have the ability to help them. So it's a very different meaning, even though we're using the same word. So that's why, um, I don't know, it's just some food for thought for you guys. So other functions of the Latin particle. So the most important functions have been already described above, uh, which we already covered. Um, I think. Are we clear on the Ladon? Should I review? Yeah, I think it's quite intuitive. I mean, maybe you can just review on your own, so we don't take the whole class um, on this. I mean, I just list them. So there, one function of the Ladon is the object of tade verbs, of some tade verbs. It will mark the object. Number two is location. It will mark location, location in time or space, not only on space. The beneficiary or the indirect object or a recipient, or in this case also you can say for the sake of, for the purpose of as well. That's our third function. There's some examples. It can make adverbs also. That's the fourth function. Then these Sanskrit things that they're just like things unto themselves. And now we reach other functions of the Ladon particle. Okay, so now as far as other functions, um, so the next one is something is equated to something. So E as B. So this is the key, that the key to know here is that sometimes the Ladon is to be translated as. And this is, you can think of it as the Ladon is equating two things. So semchen tamche pamar she. Here is the Ladon. So all sentient beings. Pama means parents. Pa or pala is father. Ma or ama is mother. So when you put pama together, it means parents in Tibetan. Also in colloquial is the same. So pamar she. Know, she is to know. As. So know all sentient beings. Know all sentient beings as one's parents or as your parents. So this is an example of when the Latin particle when the Latin particle can be translated as. It's not as common, but it is there. I have come across it many times. Korget korwe dugnel dewa chempor tongo. Again, this is a Latin. Korwe dungal dewa chempor tongo. So somebody, there is tong is a tamide verb of perception. So there is no subject. So you see the suffering of samsara as, or somebody sees the suffering of samsara as great bliss. Is that clear? This function of the Ladon? Yeah. At least conceptually get some sense of it. Then after, when we do the homework, I think it should become more clear. As you guys can see, doing the homework makes quite a big difference. I'm sorry I couldn't give you the homework last time. Or actually, I'm sorry I had to cancel class last time. Actually, we had to come in a bus, and it was we had to leave early. Okay. I cannot see. I'm sorry. Let me move this a little bit. Lu dang nyon mong korwe jur tok. Again, this is the Latin. Le is karma. Dang nyon mong. Nyon mong is kleshas. Korwe you. This is goes together. The cause of samsara. Tok. is to realize, or they translated it as understand here. Understand, understand what? Understand the karma and kleshas are as the cause of samsara. Understand, so, or somebody understands karma and kleshas as the cause of this translation, just so you know. He says that um, because the root klesha is not an emotion. The root klesha is ignorance and is not an emotion. So is incorrect. He would say mental afflictions. Just so you know. And I agree with his point. He makes a really good point actually. So I also don't think that Nyomong klesha should be translated as afflictive emotions. And this is a very common translation. But
Who was
ultimately,
that? Who was
Alan
that who made
Wallace,
that? Oh, Alan Wallace. Okay.
yeah, if you read his books, he's translated it as that, and then when he speaks also, I've heard him a couple of times make this point. So I really like his logic, and the reason that he chooses terms. Actually, to be honest, he's in terms of translation, I think he's one of the best translators that I know of. And his reasoning behind choosing why he's translated certain terms is really well researched from both the Tibetan perspective and the Western etymological perspective. So if you guys listen to his talks and if you read his books, actually after you guys read a little bit of Tibetan, when you read a text that has been translated into English, you can see how the translator is translating it. You begin to see that the terms that the translator choose in English. Like even now, if I'm reading a book in English, I'm thinking, oh, he's translated Nyanmong as that. Oh, he's translated like karma cause and effect as that. He's translated like my brain is actually thinking in terms of Tibetan, which is distracting sometimes, but it's quite useful because I know the technical language. For example, there is this Lama. Maybe you guys know about Nitartha Institute in US. This Tokchen Ponlop Rinpoche's online Shedra. I was taking a class there once, and this Acharya Tenpenima, one of his main teachers, says that in Buddhism, basically, it's a bunch of, he calls it code language. All these terms are code language. Like when you unlock one term, there is a really specific meaning, like, and this is in Tibetan, it's called Tanye. Tanye, terminology, Buddhist terminology. In fact, there is a really good book which maybe I will share. I don't know if I have the PDF, but it's a book on the definitions of everything for Abhidharma studies. It was composed by one of the translators, one of the 25 disciples of Guru Rinpoche, who was also a translator. Kawat Selek is his name. Anyways, um, La is translated as sometimes. Oh, and this is a really famous, this is the probably one of the most used examples um, in Buddhist, when they're talking about Buddhist philosophy, they always use this example. Takpa dul du zinu. Zin is to grasp. In this case, it's a mental kind of grasping. Takpa dul du is a as. Zinu. Someone grasps or grasps the rope, takpa, as snake, jul. Takpa jul to zino. So those are all the examples. I'm spending a little bit more time on these as because personally I didn't pay enough attention in the beginning and I only had in mind the main functions of la. And then when I encountered this, it was really difficult for me to make sense of these las as ladunas as. Anyways, that's now we're gonna go to our next function, which I also see sometimes. Actually, these compound verbs I see a lot actually. But anyways, let's do this one, the next one. The particle la often indicates the topic that is being discussed by emphasizing it like a ni. It can be translated as a semicolon, as for, as. So this is mainly used in text as a way to transition from like as an introduction in the beginning of an idea, in the beginning of a thought. If you guys read Kun San Lame Shelung, the words of my perfect teacher in Tibetan, last class I recommended that if you guys really want to learn Tibetan, and this is also something I said I'm planning to do myself once I get back to Nepal where I have my book. I'm going through the whole book and going through the grammar and the words that I don't know. And then if I don't understand something, I look at the English, I see how they translated it. That they have a really nice translation in English. So if you do that, you will see this all over the book as a way to transition after a quote. He said, therefore, de la, tan, 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 or in the beginning, tang po la, tun, 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 tun. The text is very technical in a way. It's enumerated. It starts, tells you the list of the main points, and then it goes in, zooms into each point, and then if that point has branches, then it goes and zooms into those branches, and then again. Actually, Tibetan literature is very technical, and this is called the sapche. Sapche, what? Sapche? The the where it tells you the index, I guess, would be of a Tibetan text. Sapche. Yeah, it's sapche. It's the index is the index of the Tibetan text where it tells you all the sections and how those sections are branching off. So usually when you're studying at the Shedra as a monk, they will tell you to memorize the subject. At least you memorize the subject because it's the map, it's a road map to understand the text. And then when the subject is expressed in the text, they will be using this.
Is it the outline? Same as the outline?
Exactly, the outline. That's the word I wasn't it wasn't coming up. Yeah, the outline. That's the right word. Yeah, thank you. I said the index, but that doesn't make, yeah, it's the outline subject. Thank you, Sant. So, lama la lokta pongjik. Lama la lokta pongjik. Pong is to abandon. Lokta, lokpetawa is lok it literally means reverse or like, but it's wrong, like wrong view. Lokta is having wrong view. Shik is like telling us to do it. Shik. Lama la lokta pongjik. Give up or abandon. Lokta, wrong view, towards the Lama, or here regarding the Guru. In this case, Federico's last class, he talked about uh, lies towards. I think this is a perfect situation to use that towards. Ngondre ngondre la tunmong dan tunmong ma yimpe ngondre ni ngondre la as for or like in ngondro as for ngondro tunmong is common, and tunmong mayimpa literally means common not Maimba. So we will translate as uncommon. Tonmong Mayimpe Ngonro ni. There are two Ngonros, the Tonmong and the Tonmong Mayimpa, the common and uncommon preliminary practices. By the way, the reason they are common, the reason is Tunmong, is because this Ngonro is common to all forms of Buddhism, no matter where they are from. All Buddhists accept this. And the Tonmo Mayimpa is uncommon because it's particular to the way they do it. The style of practice is particular to Vajrayana. That being said, they're not exclusively Vajrayana practice. In fact, out of the 5 sections of, well, at least in the Nyingma there's 5. I think in the Kagyu they do 4. At least in refuge is common to everyone. Bodhicitta is common to only Mahayana, and then from Vajrasattva, Mandala, and Guru Yoga, these are all tantric practices. In fact, as I understand, in the Sakya school, in order to practice these 3, you need to get a wang to be allowed to practice. And some ngondros, you need a wang to do the beyond the bodhicitta section. You need to get an empowerment to practice because these are already considered tantric practices. Anyways, so as for yeah, as for that, yeah, that's that. Is that clear? Are there any questions? So now this the next one is one of my, I mean, I don't want to say my favorite. It's not that I like it, but I encountered it a lot, and I found it really confusing, actually. Sorry guys, I'm gonna relocate because I need to charge my computer. This one I found a little bit confusing because it connects. Sorry, that's this slide. It connects to things, compound verbs. In this case, the ladon is connecting, it connects a noun to a verb. So, nyam is the noun. Nyam literally means experience, and len means to take. So literally, nyam su len is to take into one's experience. In Tibetan, in colloquial Tibetan, this is the word for to just practice Dharma in general. You would say nyam len che. Nyam, they compress it. Nyam len che is the verbalizer. Nyam len che ki I'm practicing Dharma basically. But the full form is nyam su len, to bring into one's experience, to take into one's experience. Kyap su do, to go for refuge. Kyap is a refuge. Draw is a verb. Kyap su droa, going for refuge, to go for refuge. Kongdu chu pa, to comprehend. Kongdu chu pa, to be inserted. Chu. Kong is, I know we have studied that Kong is him or her in Shesa, in honorific form, but Kong also means within, as another meaning also. So Kong du chupa, to insert, to insert inside, literally. This means to comprehend. And then, and there is another branch of this category is the particles that are placed between two verbs. This is the one that actually I meant to was talking about before, that it can be translated as that or as tu also. And here, so here is, in this context, is a noun connecting a verb. but in this context, it's connecting two verbs or a verb and an adjective sometimes. So the key thing to keep in mind to recognize is, look, okay, is the Latin connecting, what is the Latin connecting? Is it a noun and a verb, or is it two verbs? So this can give you a clue on how is it best to translate it. So example is here. Senking owo tompa ni in par tok. So I have my two verbs are here, yinpa and tok. So there is this Latin here connecting the two verbs. As you can tell, always the previous verb will also have a pa, will be in the infinitive form. Senking owo, the essence of mind. Tompa ni, emptiness, is understand. So in this case, we translate the ladon as that. Tok, one and realizes, or one understands the essence of mind to be emptiness. Is that clear? Yeah. Are there any questions? Feel free to ask a question if this is confusing. But I know that the confusion will come once we actually are doing it. So that's why I recommend also doing our homework. Sawe lama rangi chiwor shukpar mik. Here are my two verbs. Shuk, shukpa is to sit, to stay, honorific. Mik is to visualize, to focus on something to visualize. So Tsawe Lama, the root Lama, Rangi Chiwor on my crown. Shukpar Mik. Mik is someone visualizes Mik. The root Lama or sitting or that the root Lama, actually that's the whole point of here, is that this Ra is translated as that. One visualizes that the root Guru is present on it's sitting on the crown of one's head. Actually, that is not necessary in this context, I guess. If it makes sense in English, if we say one visualizes the root Guru is present on the crown of one's head. Is that correct in English? Without that, it would also work, right? Yeah, I think they're just making a point that you can translate it as that here. So
If you were writing that sentence in English, then you would probably put the that, but in spoken English, people might leave it out.
I see.
That's what I think, but I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
So it's more like a colloquial. That makes sense, actually. I feel like if I'm speaking English, I wouldn't put that there. But I mean, if we're translated, we want to be literal, especially if we're translated literary Tibetan, then we should use nice English, right? But anyhow, the point is that it can be translated as that. There's a couple more examples. Here, I'm gonna use this one because here it's translated as two. So this sutra, do is sutra, gowar, understanding, goa, lawa is easy, ino, gowar. So this ra is translated as two. This sutra is easy to ra understand. So sometimes this function of Latin between, in this case is connecting, in the previous case is connecting to, the previous cases is connecting two verbs. Here it's connecting a verb plus an adjective. So based on these examples, when it connects a verb and an adjective, it's two. When it connects two verbs, they're using that. However, I wouldn't take that as a rule, but it's just like a generality to keep in mind. And that's it for Latin particles. Any questions about Latin? Is it more or less clear? So now we move to the new particle, kyang, yang, and ang. So when they are used within a sentence after a nominal group, these particles are translated as also, to, as well, or even, depending on the context. Sometimes they can also mean again, moreover. So the spelling of the particle, again, as usual, will depend on the suffix of the previous syllable. Yang will follow this, yang this, and ang if there is no suffix. Chikyang me, there does not exist even one. Me is not exist. One, so even one does not exist. Would be a more literal translation. Padre Rinpoche uses this a lot in Kunsan Lama Jelong. He says, Hama Chikyang me, something like that. Like, there is no being that has not been your mother or your father. I think he says something like, Du Tokpa Mepe Dune, Tokpa Mepe Dune beginning the samsara. Since beginning the samsara, no one has been. There's no one being who has not been your 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 mother. Chikyang me. He uses that a lot in that context. Chidon Chungse Kyang Medo. Here's our particle Kyang. Chidun. They're translating it as objects. Usually it means meaning or benefit, but I guess it can also mean object. Chidun, outer objects. Chungze, a little bit. Chungze, me, not exist. And then they translated kyang as even here. They do not even exist a little bit. Kyang. Chidon, chungse kyang, even. Chidon, outer objects. Chungse, even a little bit. Chungse kyang, even a little bit. Me. They do not exist, even a little bit, these outer objects. Does that structure make sense? I know it's a new particle, so that's why maybe it feels a little bit weird, but as we go through this, we'll get the flavor of this particle. Kong Yang, here's a particle, Kong Yang, papayin. By the way, in classical, in colloquial, we only use yang to mean all these things. This is the more colloquial, I mean. In colloquial, we only use yang. Kongyang pepayin. This could also work in colloquial Tibetan, actually, this sentence. Kongyang, even he, or he also, pepayin, is Tibetan. He too is Tibetan, or he is Tibetan too. It could also be translated as even him, even he is Tibetan, but it would depend on the context. Etc. You guys get the usage of kyang. Just keep in mind that it's also to as well, or even sometimes again or moreover. That's basically a translation. Now there is this set of particles here which are translated and or again depending on the context, separating or joining, and or. Particles are formed by duplicating the final suffix. So this is basically just copying the suffix of the previous syllable. And then it has a ma If there is no suffix, then you use this secondary suffix doesn't exist anymore, but just so you know, if you see this, it means that there used to be a secondary da suffix there in ancient Tibetan. So within a sentence, these particles can be translated as or and sometimes and. And this is the example, takpa mi takpa. Takpa is permanence, mi takpa is impermanence. So permanent and slash or impermanent. Takpa and look, notice that this is from the reading rules that we have covered so far. This would be breaking the rules if you think about it, because this is one syllable, right? And ma is never a secondary suffix. So if you see this, you might be, maybe you think this is a mistake, but it's not a mistake because this is that gets attached to this previous syllable. You will see this a lot in text. So when you see this done, I used to think it was a mistake, you know. I was upset actually that they're making a mistake. But then I realized I hadn't studied grammar, so I didn't know. So yeah, this is a little bit, it might look weird to the eye, but it's what it's a grammatical rule. Tashi sam tending. Tashi and or tending. Drugnam dun. 6 or 7 and 7. Yudam me. Exist or not existing. To be or not to be. So that's a function of this kam, ngam, dam, etc. And this is when it's in between two things, by the way. If it appears, so you have to see where it's placed. If it's appearing between two things, then it's has and or. And now, after the main verb, it functions as a question mark. So there is no question marks in Tibetan, so this is what serves that function. If it comes after the main verb. Kong Pebayin, Kong Pebayinam. Is he Tibetan? So this is he is Tibetan. Kong Pebayin, he in is Tibetan. Kong Pebayinam. Is he Tibetan? So just the thing to know is, again, I'll just repeat it just to make the point. If it's in between two things, and or, if it's at the end after the main verb, question mark. That's the key to know. Tuche tamche mitakpa mainam. All compounded things, impermanence, main, not, nam, are question mark, aren't all conditioned things impermanent. I would rather translate duche as compounded, but condition is also, the definition of compounded is that it comes from causes and conditions. But literally do means a gathering, and che means to make, to have made gathered. That's why I think compounded is a better translation. But in Buddhist philosophy, the definition of compounded is that which arises from causes and conditions. So in terms of meaning, it's not incorrect to use this. Sanje ki cheten nam. Sanje ki, agent particle, agent. Che is the object. Ten is to teach. Nam, now it becomes a question. Etc. Oh, this is a good one. Am I crazy? You can ask this to your teacher. Dagni nyopa inam. Next time you meet your guru, you can see what he might give you a good instruction. Anyways, that's the end of our chapter. So we have some new vocabulary you can memorize. And we have our homework, I think, coming up. Yes. So again, this is the homework. Implement everything. The homework is cumulative with an emphasis on the previous material. Yeah, so are there any questions? No, it's okay. If there's any questions while doing the homework, please send it on the on our chat group. And there's some more vocabulary. Next class, we're going to cover the source particle. This is a really important particle that is one of the grammar cases that we're missing. So this is a very exciting particle to learn for next class. And that's that. I guess if there's no more questions. I want to welcome Claire back in the mundane world. Welcome back to Samsara. So Claire was here in Bhutan not long ago, actually. He was staying with Lama Karma and Umadrogar. So actually, they're asking uh, about you sometimes. I told them we're studying Tibetan together, so next time maybe. Next class, I think I will be at their place. Maybe if they come through, they would love to say hello to Claire.
Did Lamala travel to Bhutan with you?
No, I tried to convince him, but he wouldn't. He didn't want to travel. It's quite a long journey, you know. It's like 10 hours in the bus, and like it's really shaky and like
Do you like the
it's really
road
tiring.
to Bhutan?
Yeah. Did you come to Bumtang also?
No, but I went to Popchika, which is on the way to Bhutan.
Hmm. Actually, my favorite place here is Bumtang so far. I really love it here. And they have their own local brewery. And this beer is called Red Panda. It's so delicious. It's such a tasty beer.
Are you
Then
eating
they
kurpa?
what? Kulpa?
You're eating kurpa?
What is that?
The buckwheat pancake.
Oh, buckwheat pancakes. Yes, yes. I didn't know the name actually, but yeah, I eat that every day here. Yeah, there's also a cheese factory here. They make their own cheese because I learned that some Swiss people, so people say this looks like Switzerland, which I haven't been to Switzerland, but I've seen some pictures. I guess it does look like Switzerland. And some Swiss people have settled here and they taught the locals how to make cheese.
Mhm.
So they're making cheese and they have make their own beer. They grow a lot of their own. There's a lot of people that have their own bees. They make their own honey, and everything is made out of wood. These people are really talented with working with wood. I mean, if you guys can see, this whole hut is made out of wood where I'm staying now. And wow, these sites are amazing. I'm really blown away by this place. Actually, I don't want to go back to Nepal.
How
What's
about
the weather in Bhutan right now?
It's cold. It's sunny. Now it's sunny. Maybe should we go outside? You guys can see Boomtang.
Yeah.
Boomtang air. What were you saying, Federico?
I've heard that it's difficult to obtain a visa for entry into Bhutan. Is it correct?
It's not difficult. It's just expensive. You have
Oh,
to
I see.
pay. Yeah, if you have the money, anybody can come. I mean, it's like I think
Mhm.
nowadays it's $150 for one day.
For one day.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Anyways, Bumtang forest. It's so quiet also, like I don't hear anything. Oh, I'm just
Nice.
realizing I'm recording this. Maybe
Nice.
I should record this. Okay, I'm gonna say the dedication and then um I'll stop the recording and we can ask some more questions. 선남들이 담제식 반이 담는 예배 짠남 밤체는 제가 나 지바 롱투 파이 시페 솔레 드로바 노바쇼 chanchup samcho rinpoche ma chepa nam che ju chi chepa nyam par me pa yang gong ne gong du pel war sho